Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living on Blockchain. Today, we are speaking to Nitesh. He is the founder at Chaidex as well as Bramble. His expertise mostly lies in finding, interoperability solutions in the Web3 ecosystem. He has worked for some time in the Web3 space. Chaidex is an interoperability multiple staking uh, protocol, which is alive currently, but it's in its beta. Right now, users can only add their wallets and get like an overview of that. But in a month's time, the staking and restaking protocol would also be live on the platform. This was an interesting conversation because we kind of touched and retouched a lot upon how interoperability is still a problem that nobody really has a proper solution for. And that is what he's building for. And I would love for you guys to hear this. This is a pertinent problem that he's trying to solve. Let's deep dive right in. Hi, Nitesh. Thanks so much for making the time to speak to me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Tarusha, and thanks a lot for inviting me on the show.
It's my pleasure to have you here. So, for our listeners, can you tell us a little about your background and how you got started in the Web3 space?
Sure. I'll start with my name. My name is Nitesh Mishra. I'm from Mumbai, India, and I'm currently co-founder of Chaidex. It's a multi-staking protocol that enables P2P and local stable currencies. Given that introduction, I my journey in Web3 began. There's no exact date when it exactly began, but a bit since I was in college in 2011 in my engineering college, I kind of mined Bitcoin. I mean, not exactly mine, but I gave my computational power to basically a mining pool, which was in Russia.
Hmm.
And I did it in my college with the help of one of my professors. Only at that time, he and I had this knowledge about how to do it. So that was
Right.
my first, and for the next 5 to 6 years, last contact with blockchain or cryptocurrency in general. Okay, now fast forward to 2016, I meet a guy who's returning from the US, is a good friend of mine, and is from Pune. So I traveled to Pune to meet him, and then he tells me a bit more about smart contracts and what Ethereum is doing, and that kind of clicks something. So that is the point when I started to read more about it, to understand more about it. I started doing my own research. But the best part or the worst part was that I had to do everything from scratch, because unlike today, like where you can just go on YouTube and start learning about Bitcoin from Bitcoin or blockchain in general or Web3 in general, there was no such I would say freedom, or no such materials out there, paid or unpaid, in any case, where I could learn everything from scratch. So that was an uphill battle, but that was actually a very fruitful battle as well, because that made me fundamentally strong for what
Right.
I wanted to do, and what I wanted to. I was very clear in my life. Post that, then after 1.5 year, I started doing quite a lot of research, part-time research job for many blockchain-based exchanges. I was mostly a ghostwriter, a research analyst, something like that. That's what I did for a pretty long period of time before I founded Bramble. So Bramble is still going on, but it is a research-based company that is solving the problem of interoperability from virtual
Okay.
machine level.
Okay.
So that is something that is going on, but we have kept it aside, and I'm completely focused on Chaidex. But between Chaidex and my first stint with learning blockchain, I've done many research roles. I've taught from IIT Madras. I used to teach students blockchain for 1.5 to 2 years. I've done that as
Wow.
a full-time job as well. Yeah, but it was on all online courses that you get to do in upgrad, or great learning or things like that.
Right.
So I used to teach to postgraduate diploma students from scratch to scratch, everything about a blockchain and cryptocurrency, or permission blockchain, non-permission blockchain. So yeah, that's a bit more about me than I should have spoken.
No, no, I'm glad that you shared a very comprehensive introduction about yourself and your background. So, you kind of stumbled into the Web3 space vis-a-vis mining, and that is kind of how I got into the space as well. But
Yes,
that
yes,
this was
yes.
like in
I mean,
2011.
I wouldn't say. Yeah, I wouldn't say, I got into Web3. Like back then, there was nothing called Web3, to be frank.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. There
This
was no
term
term like
Web3 was,
Web3. Yeah.
yeah, there was no term. And plus, it was more of a curiosity project for me. So there was this friend of mine who just read something about Bitcoin. And he
Hmm.
told me, okay, now if you invest, like back then it was how much, $100 worth of $100. So by the end of this year, you'll have $1,000. So I was like, what kind of stock this is? I was
Right.
so this is what ignited the curiosity in me, because then I couldn't find it anywhere. So I
Hmm.
stumbled upon it's white paper. I read 80% of the white paper. I did not understand back then, to be really frank. But the only thing that then I did my own research. I started going to different places on internet. I stumbled upon this company that used to pool electricity, or let's say that used to pool your computational power from multiple areas, so that they can be the validators of that particular block. So it's for 2.5 months I did that, but that was just about, like, I got 2.5 Bitcoin back then. After 6 to 7 months I sold it and I forgot about it completely, up
Hmm.
until 2016. Like for 5 years, I was like blank, did nothing. I had no idea what was going around in the world, at least in Web3 world, or blockchain world at all. So that was just about it.
Right. Yeah. There must be so much regret now for selling those
I
Bitcoin,
mean,
but
I mean that. I mean, I'm at this point when I'm like done with all the kind of regrets I had to do.
right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that is interesting because you use one of those cloud platforms, and we had actually, like, initially in 2011, so we
Mhm.
had a data center, and that we had a
Oh,
lot of
that's
hardware.
good.
So that is how we thought, okay, let's like repurpose this hardware to turn this into
Mhm.
machines that can mine. We weren't mining Bitcoin; we were mining stuff
Mhm.
like Zcash. And because
Oh,
Bitcoin
nice,
would have
nice,
taken
nice.
so much. Yeah, so that it was early days. I think it was, as you said, it's a lot of curiosity that kind of fuels
Mhm.
this initially. But then obviously, you stay back for the technology. But now, when it comes to staying back, I'd
Mhm.
love to know from you what inspired you to create Bramble and then Chaidex. Can you tell us a little about both the projects, and what was like that inflection point where you thought
Yeah.
that, okay, let me build this?
Yeah. So I mean, so that again, that is a bit of a that is a bit of a journey, I would say, rather than coming to a very conclusive point. So the very first thing, I was working as a research analyst. That was my first and only job for 1 year. That I would say, between failed ventures and stuff like that. So for 1 year, I was, a research analyst and a consultant to a macro finance company. So while I was doing that, I had to go through quite a lot of researches and stuff like that. And as I was leaving the company, I was focusing more on getting a full-time job with teaching blockchain. So all these things culminated into one thing. So the very first part was the interoperability was always a challenge, and it's still a challenge. It's not being targeted the way it was being targeted, let's say 3 or 4 years back. Interoperability was such a big deal back then, like 4 years back. Right now nobody is even talking about. We are talking about rest of multiple things, but not exactly that, because the narrative is lost. But is the solution there? I would say there is no exact solution, to be frank. So that is what inspired me to take up this both
That's
these
true.
projects. Yeah. That is something that inspired me. That is something that got me thinking that this is going to be a big problem 5 years down the line. So right now, as we can see, the problem has actually begun. There are multiple L2s, and there is no like threshold of who can become L2, or who can become L3, or who can become L1 as well. There are multiple L1s, L2s, L3s. They have to be consolidated in one way or the other, because the way information travels from one blockchain to another is, first of all, very vulnerable in nature. Very, very vulnerable. You depend on so many dependencies, third parties, and most of the hacks that happen, they happen on these kind of bridges. So first of all, there is no, fundamentally, you cannot transfer information from one chain to another chain, or one layer to another layer, or let's call it, you cannot exchange information between chains or between protocols. That's it. Okay. But in case you want to do, there are solutions available, and all of them are pretty vulnerable. They're so vulnerable that they're not exactly fundamentally as good as they were supposed to be when the blockchain was invented, like blockchain or the Web3 world was being invented or being, researched or being worked upon. So that is still a biggest problem, and this is what inspired me to actually bring in these solutions. And there are multiple solutions that we are all working on, but at the core of it lies the problem of interoperability, where I personally think, and I and the people who are working in my team, at any given level, we think that targeting the virtual machine or understanding the interactions of virtual machine can actually enable us to get to the one single source of truth. So that is what we are doing, and this is what our daily source of inspiration is, apart from definitely earning money. But that is one of the biggest and the most fundamental source of inspiration or the problem that we're trying to solve in the market.
Right. So this was initially your vision for Bramble, right? And what about
E-
Chaidex?
Yeah, so basically, Bramble. This is the vision of Bramble and Chaidex. I love to call it is the brainchild of that particular vision. So
Hmm. Because
after
both of them
multiple
are basically working on interoperability and multiple,
yes, yes,
protocols, right?
definitely, definitely. So, why Chaidex is the question that, people usually ask me. So, while I was solving, this problem at Bramble of, making sure that, that if there are multiple games that are being built on Web3, or there are multiple games that are being built on Web2, and they want to interact with Web3. So they need to come in a single source. They need to understand there's only one source of truth. Okay, they don't have to go from one chain or the other or keep, changing their protocols, or it's a difficult job. Okay, so that is what Bramble was supposedly doing while we were, building it back then. So right now, what Chaidex is doing, it is becoming an exchange where you do not exactly have to depend on any third party for almost anything. So let's say you have Bitcoin and you want to interact with ETH, you can do that using Chaidex. So, and you can do that without using any dependencies on Chaidex, is what we are telling. So we are just a platform where you can come and interact with one wallet to the other wallet. So there are going to be other wallets, or there are going to be multi-sig wallets or things like that. But you can interact it on in the real time, and without any third party or without any bridging solution, or without having to wrap your tokens or unwrap your tokens, which actually eat in anywhere around 10 to 30% of your total asset value. So that is what Chaidex is looking to do. I would say Chaidex is built on multiple chains or multiple protocols. So we are chain agnostic, like we are not built for one particular blockchain. So that is one of the very first reasons and very first reason why we cannot be we cannot be bogged down by any one protocol, or we cannot be limited by just one protocol, which is the problem with other dexes or exchanges or anything like that. But I'm talking about decentralized one. I'm not talking about centralized one, because they are simply wallet to wallet exchanges. So that's a different thing.
Okay. So if you had to explain perhaps what Chaidex does in one line, how
Mhm.
would you
Mhm.
do that to, a potential user?
So so let me tell you one thing. My white paper is coming to be, it's still due, because we have changed a bit of narrative. We
Hmm.
have introduced restaking and staking, protocol on the protocol level. But if I had to tell it in one line, what we do is we enable a completely decentralized, a P2P exchange of multiple protocols without using any third parties or without using any bridging solution. And this is like the very, very basic of what Chaidex does. But at the very same time, since this also enables us to take care of staking and restaking protocols, we have introduced it. It also enables us to introduce local stable currencies in different markets. So, for example, I am actually introducing local stable currencies of 5 different markets, one being India, Oman, Nigeria, Philippines, and Vietnam. So we are introducing local stable. In Vietnam, there's also already a local stable currency. I mean, ours is going to be the second. But apart from that, rest of these countries, our stable currency is going to be one. The very first that you're going to use.
Right.
And it depends, and it completely depends on from, let's say, regulation to regulation, how these stable currencies will be regulated and stuff like that. That's a different thing altogether. But we are going to do that as. So that is our kind of go to market strategy. Not exactly,
Hmm.
but since there was demand, since I was working closely with so many people. So I know there is demand and there are liquidity providers for this. So that's why we enabled it.
All right. Okay. So tell me a little about what is the differentiating factor from, say,
Mhm.
other multi-chain staking protocols and P2P exchanges in the CeFi space.
Mhm. So I mean, so from CDFI spaces, I wouldn't say there's much of a difference from front end. The way you interact with one protocol with another protocol, not much. When I'm talking about CDFI on the front end, but when I'm talking about DEXs in particular, so let's take the example of Uniswap or PancakeSwap. Okay, so Uniswap is designed to be a protocols exchange. I mean, protocols exchange, it's a protocols exchange, which means that it only understands things that are on that particular protocol. If something that comes from different protocol, this particular DEX cannot understand it. So that is the very biggest differentiating factor. And let's talk about CDFI. So in CDFI, from front end, as I said, there won't be much difference. But from back end, CDFI again holds the custody of your assets, and we do not hold custody of any of the asset at any given point of time. If you're not staking with us, we're not holding any custody. But if you're simply doing P2P, we are not holding any kind of custody. But in CDFI, they have to hold your custody because they have to, in real time, exchange those tokens between multiple wallets in order to get you the token that you want. And with decentralized exchange, the actual decentralized exchange that are built on protocol, they can only understand one set of token architecture, and they cannot understand the different sets of token architecture. If they have to jump out of that token architecture, they will be forced to use bridges, which, as I already explained, is very vulnerable. So that is the biggest differentiating factor. That first of all, we do not hold custody of your any assets, and without doing that, we're able to make sure that your token from any protocol can be exchanged with any token of any other protocol. So that is what Chaidex biggest differentiating factor here is.
Okay. So essentially, you are providing a self-custody wallet. Like users have their own private keys, they own their private keys, they can export it. And
Yes.
you are enabling basically transfer of one token to the other.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So, I mean, currently what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to enforce or, force any sort of, my own wallet. So you can come with any non-custodial wallet right now. Okay, let's say MetaMask or, Trust Wallet or any wallet like that. You can come with any non-custodial wallet and interact with other non-custodial wallet is what I am currently doing.
All right. Okay. So right now, currently, any user can go and sign up on Chaidex, or is it in a beta phase currently?
So, I mean, you can come and you can create your own user ID. I mean,
Hmm.
why we are asking people to create user ID is basically because you can come with multiple wallets. Okay, let's
Okay.
say you as a person are not going to have only, let's say MetaMask wallet. You can have Trust wallet, you can have BTC wallet, you can have Phantom wallet, you can have any other non-custodial wallet as you wish. So that's what we are encouraging people from now on, that you can actually come, claim your username as per your wish, and create your own account where at least the platform will understand, okay, this is the person who's having so many sets of wallet, so that you don't have to keep signing up again and again with different wallets. Or that's a very big hassle that we have actually solved for, because when we were in beta phase, so that is one of the things that we were facing issue. Let's say, for example, Tarusha, you want to interact with Nitesh, that is me. Now you come with MetaMask wallet once, and then again you come with, let's say, Trust wallet, which is your wallet only, and you want me to realize that that is your wallet, but I don't know as a user whether that is your wallet or not. So that is one thing that we have solved, and people can come and you can sign in and create their username and attach their whatever wallets they want. Now, if you want to exchange, the exchange will be live from next month actually. So currently, there was a beta phase for a very limited set of people. There was quite a lot of research and development that went after that as well. But now we are taking it live from next month.
All right. Okay. So right now, currently, a user can sign up and they can add their wallets, and
Yes.
then from next month, they would be able to do the exchange bit
Yeah.
as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So now, talking a little about, you have a token as well. So can you talk a little about the role of the token within the ecosystem of Chai?
Yeah. So the whole purpose of having a token So the very first thing was that, we were not very token centric from the very beginning of the project, to be frank. The token came, when we were, token came in later part of our development. Now, why did token come into place is very interesting because, as I said, there is, Chidex, when I say Chidex, it's just not an